It just felt really, really good.
Yeah.
I feel like I finally have a voice. Not that I didn't before, you know?
Yeah.
And then when I did the audible version, the audio version, again, I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It just felt so good. In the end, it does not matter because the story's still the story.
Right.
Kody Brown's memoir just officially hit the shelves, and the revelations inside are absolutely nuclear. We're talking about behind-the-scenes sister wives details that TLC allegedly fought tooth and nail to keep buried, and now they're all laid bare in black and white for anyone with $15 and a thirst for the truth. According to Parade.com's explosive coverage, this isn't your typical reality star tell-all filled with generic drama and surface-level complaints. Kody has dropped documented bombshells that cut straight to the heart of everything viewers suspected but could never prove about the Brown family dynamics and TLC's role in orchestrating the narrative. The most gut-wrenching revelation centers around daughter Truly's birth, and when I tell you what Kody did during Kristine's active labor, you'll understand why she's been carrying this rage for over a decade. But that's just the tip of the iceberg in a memoir that reads like a prosecutor's case file against both Kody Brown and the network that enabled his behavior.
This is all my perspective, and this is all my point of view. That's it. And it's going to be different than anybody else's perception. Of course, Kody's going to feel different about all of these things that I bring up. But then I'm like, well, then write your own book, you know? That's okay. Go for it. But it's just my perspective, and it's how I felt at the time.
Yeah.
Sources close to Kristine's publishing team reveal that multiple chapters were heavily redacted or completely removed by TLC's legal department before the book could see print. Think about that for a moment. A major television network wielding enough power to literally edit a woman's personal memoir about her own life experiences. The audacity is staggering, but what made it past their censorship scissors is still enough to rewrite everything we thought we knew about sister wives. Kristine's decision to go public with these suppressed details isn't happening in a vacuum. Season 20 is currently airing, painting carefully crafted storylines about family dynamics and relationship evolution. But Kristine's memoir functions like a behind-the-scenes director's commentary, revealing the manipulation, control, and genuine human cost that never makes it into TLC's polished episodes. The timing feels strategic, deliberate, and frankly brilliant. While viewers are watching sanitized versions of Kristine's journey on their televisions, they can simultaneously read her unfiltered account of what actually happened when the cameras stopped rolling. It's the ultimate fact check in real time. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Kody didn't just write a book and walk away quietly. She's actively fighting TLC's attempts to control how she promotes and discusses her own memoir, leading to canceled book tour events and what her team diplomatically calls creative differences, with network publicity protocols.
Well, I don't like to be manipulated.
Yeah.
I don't really like being controlled. You know, that's not what I signed up for. That's not what a marriage is. You know, marriage should be a partnership. It should be this thing where you agree on things together. There shouldn't be control like that.
What emerges is a portrait of a woman who spent years being controlled, manipulated, and silenced, finally deciding she's had enough of anyone telling her which parts of her story she's allowed to share with the world. And the labor story involving Truly? That's when everything about Kody's priorities became crystal clear in the most devastating way possible. Picture this scene, because it's going to stay with you long after you close Kristine's memoir. She's in active labor with Truly, experiencing the intense, all-consuming process of bringing her 6th child into the world. This should be a moment when her husband is completely present, focused entirely on supporting her through one of the most vulnerable experiences a woman can have. Instead, Kody makes a decision that Kristine describes as the moment she truly understood where she ranked in his priorities. He leaves. Not for a medical emergency, not because another wife was in crisis, but to go check on Robin's feelings about Kristine giving birth to Truly. Let that sink in for a moment. While Kristine is in the throes of labor, dealing with contractions and the physical intensity of childbirth, Kody's primary concern becomes managing Robin's emotional state about the situation. He literally abandons his laboring wife to tend to another wife's feelings about that wife giving birth. Kristine writes about lying there between contractions, processing the devastating realization that even during the birth of their child, she wasn't Kody's priority. The medical staff around her continued their work, but the person who should have been her anchor, her support system, her partner in this monumental moment, had decided that someone else's emotional comfort mattered more than her physical and emotional needs.
So I had knee surgery, and they prescribed the pill. On day 3, I knew I was addicted. So I started studying addiction and what it was like and what I needed to do to break it.
The memoir describes how she had to complete Truly's birth essentially alone, surrounded by medical professionals, but abandoned by the one person whose presence should have been non-negotiable. It wasn't a brief absence either. Kody spent significant time away from the delivery room, ensuring that Robin felt emotionally supported about Christine's labor process. What makes this betrayal even more profound is the timing within their plural marriage journey. This wasn't early in their relationship when dynamics were still being established. This was after years of marriage, after 5 previous children together, at a point where Christine should have been able to count on Kody's presence during such a critical moment. The memoir reveals that this experience crystallized something for Christine about her marriage that she'd been trying to deny or rationalize for years. It wasn't just about feeling neglected or overlooked in the day-to-day management of a plural family. This was about discovering that even during the most sacred, vulnerable moments of her life, she still ranked below another wife's emotional preferences. Christine describes the emotional aftermath of Truly's birth as a turning point, though it would take years for her to fully act on what she learned that day. She writes about holding her newborn daughter, feeling simultaneously grateful for this precious life and devastated by her husband's choice to prioritize another woman's feelings over his wife's labor experience. But the labor abandonment story is just one piece of a much larger pattern of control and manipulation that Christine was experiencing behind the cameras, including struggles that led her to prescription medication just to cope with filming. What Christine reveals next about her experience during season 20 filming is going to shock anyone who watched those episodes thinking they understood what was really happening behind the scenes. While viewers saw carefully edited segments of family meetings and relationship discussions, Christine was privately battling an oxycodone dependency that developed as a direct result of trying to cope with the psychological pressure of filming. The memoir doesn't dance around this revelation or present it as a minor detail. Christine writes candidly about how the constant scrutiny, the pressure to perform emotional labor for the cameras, and the ongoing manipulation within her marriage created a level of stress that became physically unbearable. She describes reaching for prescription pain medication not because of physical injury, but because the emotional pain of her situation had become so overwhelming that she needed chemical assistance just to function.
When he fixes his relationship with his kids, that's when I'll accept the apology. Like, take care of your kids, reach out to your kids, call them, spend time with them, and work on that relationship. And then at that point, we can talk apology. That's an action that should happen, not just words. Words don't mean a thing.
Think about what this means for every season 20 scene Christine appeared in. While she's sitting in those family meetings discussing polygamy dynamics and relationship challenges, she's simultaneously struggling with substance dependency that viewers never suspected. The Christine on screen appears composed, articulate, and engaged in family discussions, but the real Christine was medicating herself to endure the filming process. The memoir details how she would time her medication to coincide with filming days, knowing that she couldn't psychologically handle the cameras, the scripted family interactions, and Kody's behavior without chemical buffer. She writes about the shame of needing pills to face her own life, but also the desperate recognition that filming had become a form of trauma that her nervous system couldn't process naturally. What makes this revelation particularly devastating is how it connects to the broader pattern of control and manipulation that Christine was experiencing. She wasn't just dealing with marital problems or typical family stress. She was being forced to perform her pain for television while simultaneously being denied the emotional support and genuine partnership that might have helped her heal naturally. Christine describes the isolation of this struggle, knowing that admitting her dependency could jeopardize her children's financial security through the TLC contract, but also recognizing that continuing to film without addressing her psychological state was destroying her ability to function as a mother and individual. The memoir reveals that her decision to leave Kody wasn't just about relationship dissatisfaction. It was about recognizing that the entire system, including the television show that documented their lives, had become toxic to her mental health and physical well-being. She couldn't continue medicating herself to survive her own marriage and filming obligations. But Christine's pharmaceutical struggles were happening against a backdrop of even more dramatic behind-the-scenes confrontations, particularly with Robin, that viewers never got to see because certain footage mysteriously never made it to air. Here's where Christine's memoir gets absolutely explosive, revealing confrontations with Robin that TLC deliberately kept from Sister Wives viewers. The book describes heated arguments during cast photo shoots that were so intense, so revealing of the actual family dynamics, that the network apparently decided they were too authentic for television. Christine writes about one particular photo session where months of suppressed resentment finally boiled over between her and Robin, in front of the entire production crew. According to the memoir, Robin had been making comments about Christine's parenting decisions and her attitude problems that Christine had been expected to absorb silently for the sake of family harmony and television optics. But during this photo shoot, something snapped. Christine describes finally confronting Robin directly about her manipulative behavior, her obvious favoritism with Kody, and the way she consistently positioned herself as the victim in situations where she was actually the primary aggressor. The memoir details Christine calling out Robin's tears as calculated performances designed to get Kody's attention and sympathy. The confrontation escalated to the point where Robin reportedly walked off set, claiming she couldn't continue filming with Christine, being so hostile. But according to Christine's account, the cameras captured everything, including Robin's mask slipping completely when she thought the confrontation had ended. The memoir describes Robin making dismissive comments about Christine's intelligence and her prospects for surviving outside the plural marriage. What's particularly revealing is Christine's description of the production crew's reaction to these confrontations. She writes about crew members who had worked with the Brown family for years, looking genuinely shocked at the level of animosity and manipulation they were witnessing. Some of the behind-the-scenes footage apparently showed Robin in such an unflattering light that TLC's editing team couldn't figure out how to make her appear sympathetic. Christine also reveals that there were multiple incidents during season 20 filming where she and Robin had to be separated by production staff because their arguments became so heated. The memoir describes one confrontation where Robin accused Christine of deliberately trying to sabotage the show and the family's income, while Christine fired back that Robin had already destroyed the family and was just angry that Christine refused to pretend otherwise. The book details how these suppressed confrontations revealed the real power dynamics within the Brown family. While viewers saw carefully edited segments that maintained the illusion of sisterly concern and family unity, the raw footage apparently showed two women who genuinely couldn't stand each other and had stopped pretending otherwise when they thought the cameras weren't paying attention. Christine writes that she later learned some of this explosive footage was specifically flagged by TLC executives as unusable because it painted Robin in such a negative light that it would have been impossible to maintain the victim narrative that had been built around her character in previous seasons. But the suppressed footage controversy is just part of a much larger battle. Christine was fighting with TLC's legal team, who were actively trying to control which parts of her story could become public knowledge. The memoir reveals a behind-the-scenes battle between Christine's team and TLC's legal department that reads like a case study in corporate media manipulation. According to Christine's publicist, multiple entire chapters were flagged for removal or heavy editing before the book could see publication, and the reasons had nothing to do with protecting anyone's privacy and everything to do with protecting TLC's carefully constructed narrative. Christine writes about receiving legal documents from TLC outlining which aspects of her sister wives' experience she was contractually prohibited from discussing in detail. The network's legal team apparently argued that certain revelations could damage the show's reputation and violate non-disclosure agreements that Christine had signed years earlier when she was desperate to secure her family's financial future through television. But here's where it gets interesting. Christine's legal team pushed back hard, arguing that TLC couldn't use contracts to silence a woman's account of her own life experiences, particularly when those experiences involved psychological manipulation and emotional abuse that occurred both on and off camera. The memoir describes months of legal negotiations where Christine's publisher had to balance TLC's threats with Christine's determination to tell her authentic story. The network apparently took particular issue with Christine's descriptions of how storylines were manufactured, how family conversations were scripted or heavily coached, and how the editing process was used to create false narratives about family relationships. TLC's legal team argued that revealing these production methods could constitute trade secret violations and breach of contract. Christine writes about the frustration of having lawyers tell her which parts of her own trauma she was allowed to discuss publicly. She describes receiving redacted versions of her manuscript with entire sections blacked out, knowing that these censored portions contain some of the most important truths about her experience with both Kody and the television production process. The memoir reveals that TLC was particularly concerned about Christine's account of how Robin's victim narrative was deliberately constructed and maintained through selective editing and scripted family meetings. The network's legal team apparently argued that these revelations could expose the show to criticism about manipulation and exploitation of family dynamics for entertainment purposes. But Christine's team found a fascinating legal loophole. They argued that since Christine was no longer married to Kody and was no longer contracted to appear on Sister Wives, the non-disclosure agreements that bound her as a cast member had been fundamentally altered by her changed circumstances. She was no longer obligated to protect narratives that had been used to exploit and silence her. The final published version of the memoir represents a compromise between Christine's desire for complete transparency and TLC's legal pressure for continued silence. But even the sanitized version that made it to publication contains enough explosive revelations to fundamentally challenge everything viewers thought they knew about the Brown family dynamics. Christine writes about the empowering realization that TLC's desperate attempts to suppress her story actually validated how damaging the truth would be to their carefully constructed fiction. The more they fought to silence her, the more convinced she became that her story needed to be told. But TLC's control attempts didn't end with the memoir content. They also tried to dictate how Christine could promote and discuss her own book, leading to a confrontation that would force Christine to make some dramatic decisions about her promotional tour. What happened next reveals just how far TLC was willing to go to maintain control over Christine's narrative, even after her memoir was already heading to publication. The network's legal team attempted to insert what Christine's publicist describes as controlling narrative clauses into any promotional appearances Christine might make to discuss her book. These proposed clauses were so restrictive that they would have required Christine to submit all interview talking points to TLC's legal department for pre-approval. The network wanted veto power over which podcast she could appear on, which questions she could answer, and even which specific quotes from her own memoir she would be allowed to read aloud during promotional events. Christine's response was swift and uncompromising. According to sources close to her legal team, she threatened immediate legal action if TLC attempted to enforce any additional contractual restrictions on her book promotion activities. Her lawyers argued that attempting to control an author's discussion of their published memoir would constitute an unprecedented violation of free speech rights. The memoir describes Christine's fury at discovering that TLC viewed her personal story as corporate property that they could continue to manage and manipulate even after she had left the show and divorced Kody. She writes about realizing that the network had never seen her as anything more than a performing asset whose value needed to be protected through legal control mechanisms. But Christine's legal threat went deeper than just protecting her promotional rights. Her team apparently argued that TLC's pattern of attempting to silence her story through contractual manipulation could constitute evidence of a broader scheme to exploit the Brown family through deliberately restrictive agreements. Her ultimatum to TLC was elegant in its simplicity: back off completely from any attempts to control her memoir promotion, or face a very public legal battle about reality television exploitation that would attract significant media attention and cast serious doubt on their entire programming model. The network apparently backed down, but Christine's victory had immediate practical consequences for her upcoming book tour events. The fallout from Christine's legal ultimatum to TLC became immediately apparent when she and fiancé David Woolley started canceling scheduled book tour events left and right. What her team diplomatically called creative differences with TLC's publicity protocols was actually Christine's complete rejection of the network's attempts to turn her memoir promotion into another carefully orchestrated performance designed to protect Sister Wives' reputation. According to insider sources, TLC had developed an elaborate publicity strategy for Christine's book tour that would have essentially functioned as damage control for the network. They wanted to position Christine's memoir as the emotional journey of a woman finding her independence, while carefully avoiding any discussion of the specific ways that TLC's production methods had contributed to her psychological distress and substance dependency. The network apparently prepared talking points that would have required Christine to focus on her personal growth and new relationship with David, while deflecting any questions about the manipulation tactics, suppressed footage, or contractual exploitation that she had detailed in the memoir. TLC wanted Christine to promote her own book without actually discussing its most damaging revelations about the show. Christine's response was to systematically cancel events where these restrictions would have been enforced. Major bookstore appearances, podcast interviews, and media opportunities were scrapped because Christine refused to participate in what she viewed as another layer of manipulation and control. She writes about the empowering decision to walk away from potentially lucrative promotional opportunities rather than submit to TLC's narrative management one more time. David Woolley's support during this process appears to have been crucial. The memoir describes how having a partner who prioritized her authentic voice over financial considerations was a completely foreign experience for Christine, after years of being married to someone who consistently chose money and television opportunities over her emotional well-being. The canceled book tour events sent a clear message to both TLC and the Sister Wives audience. Christine was done performing for anyone else's benefit. She would only participate in promotional activities where she could speak freely about her experiences without network censorship or narrative coaching. This decision cost Christine significant promotional opportunities and potential book sales, but it also demonstrated her commitment to authenticity over profit. After years of having her story managed and manipulated by others, she was finally willing to sacrifice financial gain to maintain control over her own narrative. The strategic cancellations also created a buzz around the memoir that traditional publicity might not have achieved, with fans speculating about what TLC was so desperate to suppress. What Christine's memoir revelations expose goes far beyond just Sister Wives family drama. Her detailed account of TLC's control tactics, narrative manipulation, and exploitation of vulnerable family dynamics represents a damning damning case study in how reality television networks systematically abuse the people who generate their content. The timing of Christine's memoir release during season 20's airing creates a fascinating real-time comparison between TLC's manufactured storylines and Christine's authentic account of what actually happened behind the scenes. Viewers can literally watch sanitized episodes while simultaneously reading Christine's unfiltered descriptions of the manipulation, substance dependency, and psychological control that were happening during filming. What emerges is a pattern that extends well beyond the Brown family. Christine's descriptions of how TLC manufactured conflicts, suppressed inconvenient footage, and used financial pressure to maintain cast compliance mirrors tactics that reality television insiders have whispered about for years across multiple networks and shows. Her memoir functions as a rare insider's account of how these exploitation systems actually operate. The strategic brilliance of Christine's timing becomes even more apparent when you consider that season 20 was supposed to be TLC's opportunity to rehabilitate the Sister Wives narrative after years of declining viewership and mounting criticism about the show's authenticity. Instead, Christine's memoir is systematically dismantling every carefully constructed storyline that the network is currently airing. Industry observers note that Christine's willingness to sacrifice financial security and promotional opportunities to maintain narrative control represents a significant threat to reality television's traditional power structure. Most cast members remain silent about exploitation because they can't afford to lose their television income, but Christine's successful transition to independence has freed her to speak without economic consequences. The memoir also reveals how reality television contracts are specifically designed to prevent exactly the kind of authentic disclosure that Christine is now providing. Her legal team's successful argument that changed life circumstances had altered her contractual obligations could potentially create precedent for other reality television participants who want to share their authentic experiences without network censorship. What's particularly significant is how Christine's revelations connect to broader conversations about worker exploitation in the entertainment industry. Her account of being forced to perform emotional labor while struggling with substance dependency, all while being denied adequate support or compensation, parallels exploitation patterns that unions and advocacy groups have been fighting across Hollywood. The Sister Wives community's response to Christine's truth-telling has been overwhelmingly supportive, but it's also sparked broader discussions about reality television ethics and the responsibility networks have to protect participants' well-being. The Sister Wives fan base erupted the moment Christine's memoir hit shelves, and their response has been nothing short of a digital revolution. Facebook groups that once debated favorite wives and polygamy logistics have transformed into investigative communities, cross-referencing Christine's revelations with years of archived episodes to identify exactly where TLC's editing manipulated their perceptions of family dynamics. Longtime viewers are experiencing a collective awakening as they rewatch old episodes through the lens of Christine's memoir revelations. The labor abandonment story has particularly resonated with mothers who are now recognizing that Kody's absence during Truly's birth wasn't just poor timing or polygamy logistics, but a deliberate choice that revealed his true priorities. Comment sections are filled with women sharing their own experiences of being abandoned during vulnerable moments by partners who prioritized other people's feelings over their immediate needs. The community's detective work has been remarkable. Fans are creating detailed timelines that correlate Christine's described oxycodone dependency with her on-screen behavior during season 20, noting moments where her responses seemed unusually subdued or disconnected. They're identifying scenes where Christine appeared to be struggling emotionally, but TLC's editing framed these moments as typical polygamy adjustment issues, rather than signs of a woman in psychological crisis. Insider sources within the Sister Wives community report that Christine's courage to speak out has encouraged other people connected to the Brown family to share information they've been holding back for years. Former neighbors, community members, and even some production staff are reportedly reaching out to fan groups with additional details that support Christine's account of manipulation and control. The revelation about suppressed footage showing Christine and Robin's confrontations has sparked particular outrage among viewers who feel deliberately misled by TLC's narrative choices. Many fans are demanding that the network release unedited footage, arguing that they deserve to see authentic family interactions rather than carefully constructed storylines designed to maintain specific character arcs. Social media campaigns supporting Christine have gained serious momentum, with hashtags like Let Christine Speak and TLC Manipulation trending across multiple platforms. The Sister Wives community has evolved from entertainment-focused discussion groups into advocacy networks supporting Christine's right to tell her authentic story without corporate censorship. What's particularly powerful is how Christine's memoir has connected with women far beyond the Sister Wives audience. Her account of recognizing manipulation patterns, finding the courage to leave an exploitative situation, and refusing to be silenced by legal threats has resonated with women who've experienced similar dynamics in their own relationships and professional situations. But Christine's truth-telling is creating implications that extend far beyond fan community support. Christine's memoir has fundamentally altered the power dynamics surrounding Sister Wives Season 20 and potentially the entire future of the Brown family's television presence. What started as one woman's decision to tell her authentic story has evolved into a seismic shift that threatens TLC's ability to maintain their carefully constructed narrative about polygamy, family values, and relationship dynamics. The immediate impact on Season 20's credibility cannot be overstated. Every episode that airs now faces automatic fact-checking from viewers who have Christine's unfiltered account of what actually happened during filming. TLC finds itself in the unprecedented position of trying to maintain storylines that a former cast member is simultaneously debunking in real time through her published memoir. Industry analysts note that Christine's successful resistance to TLC's control tactics has created a template that other reality television participants could follow. Her legal team's argument that changed life circumstances altered her contractual obligations could potentially free other cast members from exploitative agreements that prioritize network profits over participant well-being. The financial implications for TLC are significant. Sister Wives has been a reliable revenue generator for the network, but Christine's revelations about manipulation, substance dependency, and suppressed footage raise serious questions about the show's authenticity that could impact advertiser confidence and viewer retention. More immediately, Christine's memoir success demonstrates that there's substantial audience appetite for authentic reality television stories, even when those stories expose the manipulation behind popular shows. Her willingness to sacrifice promotional opportunities rather than submit to network censorship has actually increased public interest in her account and validated her credibility. The legal precedent Christine has established by successfully challenging TLC's control attempts could have industry-wide implications. Reality television contracts have traditionally been designed to prevent exactly the kind of authentic disclosure that Christine is providing, but her successful pushback suggests that networks' legal control over cast members' personal narratives may be more limited than previously understood. For the Brown family specifically, Christine's memoir has created an irreversible shift in public perception. Kody's abandonment of Christine during labor, the manufactured conflicts with Robin, and the pattern of emotional manipulation that Christine describes have fundamentally changed how viewers interpret every family interaction shown on television. The most significant long-term implication may be Christine's demonstration that financial independence from reality television is possible and preferable to continued exploitation. Her successful transition away from TLC's control while maintaining public platform and financial stability provides a roadmap for other reality television participants who feel trapped by exploitative contracts. As Season 20 continues airing, viewers now watch with the knowledge that they're seeing a carefully edited performance rather than authentic family dynamics, and that knowledge has forever changed the relationship between audience and content. A fresh video is already queued up, and something tells me the next round of Sister Wives revelations will be even juicier than the last.